intermittent screen this time, just for the sake of consistency. Hopefully, audio is coming through okay. It's looking a little quieter compared to last week, but at the same time, it's actually my microphone this time, which is better. Better, because last week I didn't realise. I didn't tinker with the settings in XSplit enough, and it was using the audio from my inbuilt laptop microphone, which is why it didn't sound great. You could hear me, didn't sound all that great. So this should be an improvement. If not, I might need to figure out how to adjust volume. In fact, is the audio mixer there the thing I'm looking for? Actually, that looks alright. If I talk at a normal volume, I'm getting about 20, 35, somewhere in that range. So hopefully, I'm perfectly audible. If not, I now know which button I need to click to sort that. But yeah, we've learned that. We've learned all sorts of little things from last stream that should hopefully make this one go a little smoother. Like, say, not having the stream also open, messing up with the amount of bandwidth you're using for your camera and making it a choppy mess. So, let's find out. Let us find out. Give me a moment, actually. I'm just refinding the angle from last time, and also getting a message on Facebook. A little quiet but audible. I know the button to click then. Thank you, Pixel. Can I make it go above 100%? Noise gate, threshold, compressor, button. Ratio, attack. I do not know enough about audio. Give us a moment whilst to figure this out. Set how quick after the signal dips below threshold. Set by how much. How do I just increase my volume? Compressor, noise gate, noise suppression. None of these are what I'm after. Also, could hear when you got a message, might be worth telling it. Yeah, I will do that. So now you won't be able to hear the pings. We're very professional here. What is this button? That's what turns my microphone off. Test? Oh, yeah, okay, they're teasing me from Facebook. It's nice to have tech support. Let's hold. Sets how low the noise gate will stay open. I don't want noise gate, I just want to be louder. How do I do that? Talking to myself, I clicked the button that made me mute my mic. It's okay? I'm stupid. But yeah, as I was saying, I can now actually also see Twitch chat. So, if people do pop up and decide to chat, I'll actually be able to see them, unlike last week, because I watched the the playback. Turns out there was a random bot posting a link to like bot followers. Hi, John. Hola. But also a guy did pop up and say hi. And of course, with me not being able to see chats, you got completely ignored. So that was fun. Better make myself decent. Yeah, I would suggest that. But yeah, picking up where we left off with this guy, he is exactly as he was last week. I did realize I did forget to paint the string and the ring. Well, no, I did. I did paint the rings on his necklace. Didn't do the string on his necklace. Also didn't do the string for his little skull there. Hey, everyone's here. I can see everyone. We are functioning, even if a little quiet. I'll take that. Right, yes, let's start with the strings. Still have the same wet palette sheet from last week. Granted, the paint that was on there from last week has now dried because I have allowed it to dry between sessions, because otherwise, that's how you get a moldy sponge. No one wants a moldy sponge. No one wants a moldy anything unless it's like, geez, really, let's be honest here. So, if we are doing the string, wet my brush, get a little bit of our brown. Let us get a start. Hopefully, as I do more and more of these, things will continue to improve. I have considered getting the subscription for XSplit, because I cannot get Streamlabs or OBS to work on my current computer, laptop. Let's be honest here, I'm on a laptop. So I'm kind of stuck with XSplit. Granted, it's what I know. It's what I've used to stream in the past too. But if I do ever get an upgrade, I might consider using different software if I can get more functions. That is what we want at the end of the day. I'm seeing all the mistakes I accidentally left from last week as well. There's still a little bit of gold on the just underneath the edge of the shoulder pad. Probably can't see it too great there. There we go. Yeah. So we'll get that fixed. And let us get the string on this. So hopefully we can then... I am thinking how I want to do this, because I typically would use a wash. But washes can also take a little while to dry. So just realised there is a belt there that I should probably paint brown too. It's all the brown stuff I missed. So I only missed the most boring colours last week, which is something. I don't know. But yeah, if I do use washes, they're going to take a little while to dry. So I might need to bounce between things as I go today. Granted, I could just put down some washes, get a little bit more green on the skin, because right now that is the darkest I want the skin to be in places. So we're going to have to build up some highlights. Just going to have to be very careful, because this is a very small detail now that I realise. Who'd have thought string would be such a hassle to paint? But I'll figure something out. Because I'm not just going to be happy just sitting there. Well, no one wants to watch paint dry. If anyone wanted that, I'm sure there's a stream specifically for that. And you're not there, thankfully. For me, at least. I don't know. I ain't gonna question what you're into. People put on that live stream of just a log fire burning at Christmas. Which, okay, sure. Don't get it, but sure. You do that. Right, there we go. Thankfully, there wasn't much of a belt showing. And let us fix that little edge underneath there too, because that's just going to be 2 seconds with some Iron Warrior. That's my favourite show. Someone's on their phone. Why would your phone autocorrect something to being your favourite shoe? That's the bit I'm wondering. There we go. Still want that ring. In fact, you know, let's not even bother having that ring be gold. It looks really awkward. And do I paint the spikes on his little cuff? On fire, yeah. Is his favourite shoe on fire? In fact, let us get the rivets here, because I think usually, again, I would do metallics with a black wash. But considering this is an orc, and the fact that we are going to have some goldy brassy colours on here, I might just use a brown, because it'll shade our warmer metallics a bit nicer. That was not in focus for that entire thing, I just realised. Thank you. But also, where was I going? Yeah, it's an orc. Having it shaded with browns will just help things look a little messier, shall we say? Which is what you want. Orcs are not known for being clean and tidy. They're known for loud, and I just completely messed up that brushstroke there and hit that. So already seeing things I need to clean before we start hitting washes. I'm seeing that I got some of the gold on his wrist as well when I painted that last week. This is why it's always good to come back with fresh eyes. You see all the ways you messed up. This is not the most interesting bit. It is just making some triangles silver. Also, silver paint is drying a little too fast. And as I said last week, I don't want to be putting metallics on a wet palette, so you get a silver sponge. Flakes just seep in and just get on everything they shouldn't. This side, this side, this side. And there. And there. I'm also hoping, because my plan with these is to keep them weekly. Because I have enjoyed these past couple sessions. It's gotten me to paint something that I wouldn't have normally gotten around to without thinking like, oh, I just feel like painting this now. Because usually when I'm painting, I'm just trying to catch up with my purchases for my Marines. And getting to paint something different and on camera, it's a different flow. It's like painting, but also like a different aspect of like, well, not acting, but like, you know, being a bit more of a personality whilst doing so. Makes it feel like a little bit of a different experience, and it's holding its novelty so far. Let's top up that red. Let's make sure, yeah, some with the green from the skin did sneak its way up sides. And I do have a backlog of random stuff, because social painting is a way to put it. I did once kind of do that at my local store, where I just saw like I felt like painting, but I didn't want to just be stuck indoors, because I had been stuck indoors for a while. This was way before lockdown by at least a couple of years. So I did just go to my store, go to it at a day where I knew people would be around, and just painted. And sometimes people knew I painted, because I've got a cabinet full of models at my store. But they'd never actually seen the process, so it was nice to have people pop up and ask questions and just see that you know, not just see the results, but see the process. It's kind of got that similar appeal here. I've also liked the idea of teaching painting at some point, but that is something that would be way, way off, because there's a lot of people that would rather just have their stuff painted. And whilst I have done commissions and still have an outstanding one sitting on my desk waiting to be finished up, I don't intend on commission painting for too long. Much longer even. That standing one might actually be the last one that I do in terms of commissions. Painting your own stuff is a bit different. Also, just going to grab a drink. Well, I've got a drink, just going to grab a sip. Hopefully it should actually mute me this time, because it's actually using my headset. And can confirm it did. The bar did not move whilst I shouted test a few times. Right, where do I want to start? A lot of this could be washed with a brown. The red of the trousers, definitely the boots. I'm considering the metallics. The fingernails could be brown. Obviously, the brown leather could be brown. The black leather, I'm going to do black. Surprise, surprise. Gold, definitely. Honestly, I'll just cover half of this model in brown and then see if we can't get some of the skin done. So our cracks. Give you a shake. Don't know if you could hear that, but yeah, washes, Citadel washes. Fun thing with the Citadel line, these, like the layers and the bases, perfectly fine to criticize, especially the pot design, because as you can see on all of my paints, a little bit does get caught in the back. I can't be bothered to clean it out. I can't be bothered to put things in dropper bottles. I can't be bothered to change the line of paints. This is the most convenient stuff for me. It works. I stick to it. But even people who absolutely hate the Citadel pots, I've seen a lot of them also just absolutely love the washes because they're good. Even back when this was, I think it was Bad Up Brown or whatever the previous line of washes, like before we had Null Oil. No, it was Bad Up Black before we had Null Oil. I forget what the brown one was. They've always just done good washes, and I am gonna want a bigger brush. So let me just find one that is good to go. Yeah, that'll do. Comparison. It's like it's not a mile bigger, but it'll do. It's washes, they don't have to be neat. I'll probably... Let's start with the bits I know I want to be brown, which are going to be the metals and, of course, the brown leather. And if I can get this in focus just so I can demonstrate it, you can just instantly see how this stuff is going into the cracks and crevices, shading it, doing a little bit of a tone all over the actual surface. Forgot the words. It is wet, which is why it looks so glossy right now, but it will dry and it will have a slightly different finish to the normal satin finish of the paints, but that is relatively easy to fix, and this is just going to basically save me half a job, because after that, usually I'd try and focus the wash in certain areas. This is an orc, so he is going to get slopped all over. Let's not take that out of context. But yeah, so usually I would try and just basically do what's called a pin wash, where you just put the wash in specific places on a surface, rather than here where I am just putting it all over because sod it. So usually that would mean I would have to do some cleanup on the surfaces to make sure that they are consistent colour. Again, don't have to worry when you're painting a dirty boy. I'm actually going to put a little bit on the white skull on our pistol here. That is something I did find really weird with painting orcs. Like I do occasionally still do a bit of digital art, and of course alongside this, and I have found over the years, being messy with traditional, i.e. physical art, is a lot easier than it is with digital, and vice versa. It's really hard to do a clean paint job with like paints and brushes and inks. Granted, that's just by their nature, but it's just, I don't know, I'd consider just taking advantage. Oh hey, we've got Dana and how did I forget your name, Jason? Hi. How are we all doing? Right, yeah. Brain fart, we call that. Let's get his shoulder pad too. And like, this isn't going to be a super high-end paint job. I want it to be done in at least, if not this stream, the next one. Because there's only so many hours you could spend with an orc boy, and with these streams being about 2 hours a pop, no one wants to spend 6 hours on an orc. Not a single orc that isn't a fancy boy. But I do have plenty of backlog, and everyone's just waving all it. L, you tried. Let us get these tassels too. In fact, you know what? Screw it. The white will get the brown wash. It's just going to help it look messier. That's what we want. It's not showing up too well on camera whilst I'm doing it. Probably isn't going to help it because it's so wet. It's going to be reflecting a lot of light. But hopefully that'll solve itself over time. Let us just get some on the bullets and the necklace. Then there his leather little ear flaps. But yeah, I am thinking what to do next after doing this guy. It's either going to be, I do have some company veterans for my Marines, so if you want to see me paint bright yellow boys with hammers, that's going to be an option. I did get Mephiston. I wanted to say the other day, but he literally arrived in the post yesterday, and he's looking like a fancy boy. Like, I'd go over and grab the model if it didn't mean like ejecting my leg from the current setup. But yeah, fancy vampire space marine boy. Literally modelled him with the hand where he's like wiping his mouth. I mean, orcs is all Gits, Necrons are love, Necrons are life. I got my fist in where? My foot, not my fist, John. Yeah. To be fair, some of the models I do have on the side are Necrons. I do have a couple of the characters from Indomitus. The Lord, the Sculpt Lord. I did get a Cryptek as well on the side, just because it kind of felt weird not having a Cryptek alongside a Lord and what is essentially a Destroyer Lord. I do have a lot of nostalgia for the old Locust type. Let's get some brown on a tooth. I don't really mind that I'm getting it on the black, because the black's going to overpower the brown anyway. Let us get all the leather back here. To be fair, looking at my desk in front of my TV, I do have a lot of blank models. Granted, a lot of them are orcs. Again, I don't play orcs, I just like them. And yeah, I could pick one of those too alongside the Necrons. Currently got about 20 Necron Immortals running out of silver. Yeah, I had that trying to paint an Imperial Knight. Just trying to do the inner frame on that thing took a lot of silver. And I happened to pick a very warm summer day to try and paint a lot of the same surface areas, a lot of the same colour, and it got very sticky very fast. Like, not just me, like the actual paint itself was just getting sticky whilst I was moving it from pot to model. So the next time I did a night, I just gave up and I just used a silver spray paint. Literally the lead belcher primer, and it worked. And then I half painted the knight and never finished it, and he's still sitting on my shelf, sort of half shaded. Which feels bad, but he's a knight I specifically got for using with my Mechanicus. So I got Skitarii and a Doomcrawler, and I might expand that when the Codex comes out next month, because I do like my Mechanicus and they don't get enough love. If Mechanicus were an army when I first started 40k, they would have easily be my first army, but when I first started, Necrons were still in their 3rd edition Codex in the middle of 5th edition. So the options were a bit more limited. There's a butt ton of armies that have been added since then, between Genestealer Cult, Custodes, Harlequins. Tempted to buy some Skaven siege engines, make a fun painted product. I don't play Skaven. Yeah, Skaven are a lot of fun. I do actually have a Skaven hiding at the back of my desk. Let me just wash these bullets. Yeah, it is actually Skaven Warplock. He's only based, no washes or anything on him, but he's come along nicely, and oh boy, painting the tiny feet on those tiny little mice coming out of the sewer and on the top of his little smokestack. That was something. That was tricky. And then of course I dropped something on him, so he's got a couple of repairs here and there that are hidden quite well. You would not know. Well, some of the paint did get scratched off his tail that you can see there, but you would not know that that little bit of his hood broke off. I ended up grabbing this playing actually with Pixel on some Total War. Our first attempt was with Skaven. We both absolutely love Skaven, but they are such a difficult campaign to play as beginners. We ended up switching to Lizardmen and absolutely stomped everything, literally. Yeah, quite happy with how he came along, especially how the smoke on him. Let me just grab him again. Transitions from the green to the white. I was quite happy with that. Doing that is not easy. It did take a few coats. It's still a little splotchy, but I'm going to be putting other colours on top of that, especially over the white to sort of add some volume to the smoke. I don't know why I've avoided painting the white on his coat and hat. They are definitely going to be getting a brown, just to add to the dirtiness. Let's get this on the back too. This is something I do miss about painting orcs. It takes forever to base coat them, but shading is just like, I just cover it all in brown. It's easy. Literally one of the easiest stages in painting most armies. I just cover it all in a brown wash. If it doesn't look right, it'll look like it's on purpose even, if you mess up. Let's get these real quick. Don't want to add too much extra to the areas around there. Just make sure that skull gets some proper shading. And then the brim of his hat. And like I said in the last stream with painting Marines, it's easy. Like it's the opposite with Marines. Base coating them is a doddle. So I just cover the whole thing in yellow with me painting Lamenters. It's afterwards cleaning it up and shading that makes them a pain. But I won't say I cheat. I do a quote-unquote Blanchian style, where I just say, screw it, let them be messy. Like, to use old. Well, I say old, I finished him last night. Objective marker guy here. He is that messiness done to an extreme. Just to make him look like, well, he's dying. Yeah, exploded plasma pistol, missing hand. Quite fun, actually, drilling out his forearm to make the cavity where his arm should be. It's a little out of focus, but yeah. Right, so we have covered a majority of this model in a brown wash, which, honestly, is already doing a lot for him. And should do his teeth too. Again, more brown paint. Don't you love it? I think I said it last stream, where brown, whilst being one of the most boring colours out there, is also one of the more useful ones, because it's just really good for shading things. Like, those teeth instantly just pop out a heck of a lot more with a bit of brown ink. Right. While we are waiting for that to dry, it is now time to attempt the skin. Just give me a second whilst I have a sip. There we go, back. Do I want to go pale or do I want to go saturated? Because I have about 5 different greens for this. This stream has replaced my music while playing full tank Vagar support. Oh, you're going that sort of dip. I need to actually get in the habit of playing League more, but I hate the idea of playing it solo. And it's also just like, I have also forgotten how to play. But what can I say? I tried to play ADC in support. In fact, I don't think I've actually played this season, so who knows. Yeah, Vagar support is a thing. And when we say Vagar support, it is literally, I hold them still, beat them up. I think, let's go... Tell you what, we'll start getting brighter, because we started basically with War, which is this sort of olivey green. Let's move up to this sort of nuclear warpstone. It's yeah, in terms of like weird league roles, I have seen all sorts of weird things happen with the new season. Top lane Karma I've seen. Just because she can just chuck out damage. I had that surprise in the game, actually, playing with some of the guys in the chat right now. Uh, and I at the time only thought of Karma as the support. Yeah. And I saw her in, I think it was in mid lane actually, and I was trying out Victor, and I got annihilated, thinking, oh, she's not going to do much damage. Oh, there goes 2/3 of my health. Yeah, League has changed a lot with the new season. Jungle Hecarim, I can see. I've seen a lot actually, even in the videos that I watch. Scion, yeah, Scion can go anywhere, and yeah, well, a lot has changed this season. Just everything got swapped about. Well, not swapped about. It's just the new items just made champions good in other places. I still need to see. I miss playing Kale. When I first started playing back up last year, I was playing Kale support. I don't know if the same current. Well, the issue I had a little bit back then is the same issue we'd have now, where either the game would go long enough, I'd hit level 11, and people would start dying to the support, or if the game is over by 15 minutes. Yeah, this is a lot more. Tell you what, let us start on this bicep here. Yeah, I'm keeping up with League. I found it easier just watching videos, just sort of like as a chill out, rather than actually like reading guides or anything. Because I think a link that Slider sent me no, was it yesterday? Or was a screenshot of him playing League and having something open on his other screen as well. There's a guy called Cryobeat, who I have been watching for a little while, who basically plays fresh top, and he's a chill player, and it's honestly just interesting to see what a fresh can do. I don't play serious stuff, but if you ever want to play dumb, hit him up. Yeah, stuff like that. Like, it's just surprising what you can do with a champion in a different lane. Just as with most games, sometimes you just gotta throw the meta out the window, and sometimes it works just because of the way you play it. Made friends with a platinum Tryndamere ADC. Oh my god. That sounds a little terrifying. I mean, especially because like Tryndamere has such an easy time tower diving. It's like, I'm big angry Viking man. I'm deciding that I don't want to die right now for at least the next 15 seconds. I'm just going to run under the tower and hit them. Who needs range when you can get you could just get there? Trin and Lulu. Oh god. Massive Tryndamere, literally. Yeah, let's get the top of the bicep. I'm talking more League than I am about the model. That's not a bad thing. Downside of Warpstone, it has not got the strongest coverage. But that should help. That pink that we did in the recess to show a little more experimenting. Yeah, experimenting. That's a sort of playstyle as well. Make more fun when you're not playing too seriously. Yeah, League is one of those weird games where like there is so much in terms of what you can do in an experimentation. Like, it could be just a champion in a different lane or in a different role, or just swapping out an item. Like, literally, you can change entire builds now pretty much by just switching your mythic and getting a different bonus. And people just sort of like, I get that like it's a game where the community is basically just built around how to play the game. So quite a lot of the mindset for players is just like what's optimal or what works, etc. Like, just experimenting and doing weird ass stuff is half the fun. I do the same with a bunch of the other games that I play. Like, I've had plenty of conversations with Slider about like our choices when playing Magic decks. Like, I'm still trying to force that Pirate Tribal I've still got on an old stream on here. And honestly, I'm enjoying it so much more than trying to chase the meta. Yeah, you take it very seriously. Especially when you just get paired up against a Yasuo again. And that's why he gets so angry, yeah. At least the Yasuo never hits his 0-10 power spike. No, to be fair, John is pretty good with Echo. Sion's the one where he'll just like what would Reinhardt's into things, shall we say. Which, it's Sion, you can't do that. Yeah, you don't want to always do that. You can say that about any tactic, really. You don't want to always do that. That's what makes it a tactic, rather than just turn your brain off, hit Q or R, I guess. What is Scion's Q? I forget. Is it 5 different room pages for Scion, but the best one at the minute is Phase Rush. I honestly forget what it is. Runes were always the part of League that just absolutely did not stay in my brain. Like, that is one of the other ways. One of the other 1,000 ways you can build variety in the game. And honestly, the only things that stick in my brain are lanes and items. Let's just hit the top of this muscle. That's the problem with painting all these round volumes. It's also nice to see, now on the stream where I have figured out how to get chat working, I can actually watch it while people are talking. Oh, Q is not alt, is it? Yeah, Q is the first one. Hitting phase rush is hitting champs with 3 things give movement speed. Right, that makes sense. Yeah, because it's very easy to just. It's a slam down, isn't it? Q is hammer down. Yeah. Hammer, yell a minion at someone. I think his third ability is. Does he still have the little shield? I forget. Like, Scion, strangely enough, was one of the first champions I focused on, but that was back when he did Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonations and looked like something out of Warcraft 3 still. W is the shield, right. That is good to remember. Yeah, I tried Kale support. Actually really enjoyed it. I was apparently very good at chucking out Kale ults at just the right moment to keep someone alive. Jin, just because I absolutely... Yeah, he is Yeet a minion with Scion, yeah. Jin, I just absolutely love his character. Like, he is just one of, if not the best, visually and characterfully designed champions in League. That plus his kit is just really fun. Who else? Victor, I think I mentioned, just because I like playing Doctor Doom. Because this is basically what he is. Who else? I wanted to try Lilia. Yeah, R is choo choo. Good way of putting it. Victor, because I wanted to play Doctor Doom. Pantheon, if I ever figured out how to play top lane. Now that he is no longer really as much of a support as he used to be. I do like the look of Gwen as well, actually, now that I think about it. She looks fun. I know she isn't too strong right now, which is a change considering the recent lineup of LoL champions either being overtuned or disasters. But I do quite like her design. I think she could. I will agree with what a lot of people have said. Yeah, Pantheon being support. I am tempted to try him as support just because I've got the better mindset for support. I'm not an aggressive player. I counterplay rather than play. Also, fighting Gwen right now and it hurts. Yeah, she looks fun. Pardon me. She looks like a lot of fun. I do agree with a lot of people where she could look a little more like a puppet. I know a thought I've had because she's got that joke, doesn't she, where she turns into her doll, sitting on her scissors and starts spinning around. And if you walk or auto whilst you're doing that, she stays as the puppet for a little while. I'd really like if something like that was part of a kit. I think it's a... Is it a double? No, yeah, it's a W, where she makes a little circle that's basically like a little wind wall. And, I don't know, I think it would be cute if, the justification for not being able to be targeted isn't that you've got this magical shield around you. It's just your tiny baby. Granted, that justification doesn't work when you're shielding other people with it, but I don't know. If Lulu can turn people into little jellyfish, I'm sure Gwen can turn other people into little dolls. That'd be cool. That would be a skin line. I didn't put any of the pink actually up on his neck. Should put a little. Well, nah, that part of his body isn't going to be too warm. It doesn't need the pink. And things like her dash, I think, would be really cool if, instead of her dashing, it's I forget the name of the character in Skullgirls. She's like a cat, but also, she can detach her body. But, if Gwen could do that instead of a dash, it's more like a reverse hook. You hook onto someone and it pulls you towards them. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't play League enough to know whether or not stuff like that would be balanced or not. Because sometimes it isn't the stats, it's just sometimes what an ability does outside of the numbers is what's strong. There you go. This arm and the back of his neck at least are very bright green if you compare it to the other green. Then again, saying about Gwen not being enough of a puppet, there's always the weird disconnect with Shaco because Pixel a couple of times has pointed out that like if League champions were scaled to how big they would actually be, Shaco would literally be the smallest champion because he is literally just a toy. He's just an animated little toy running around murdering people. They just scaled him up so he's actually like playable. And like Shaco could very much be made to look a lot more like a puppet too. Maybe, well, granted, he's got the same freaking model he had since before his lore got updated to that. So maybe if Shaco gets a rework, he'll look like that. I'm talking about League when I'm painting an orc. There's a bit of a disconnect. But there's a lot to talk about in League. Even if I don't play it a huge amount, I still like to keep up with it because there's some interesting things going on there. Shaco's like, yeah, legit 6 inches tall. Yeah, I'd like a Shaco rework. I know Udyr won that poll and is now being shortlisted for a rework. I could be lying there. Memory is. I mean, you're saying you're sure you've heard a rumor, and that's not exactly lying. That's just misremembering. Yeah, there's a lot of champions now, so you could just hear like, oh, such and such might be getting a rework, and just misremember which champion people are talking about. So there's a whole bunch of champions that just a little, not even a little, like a whole rework, just a little tweak here and there. Udyr confirmed to get a rework was voted on. Yeah, I remember that being the same polls. I think Scar and a couple others, and people were voting on what skin lines they could make. Then again, if Skarner got a rework, that would be like... Skarner's probably at this point had more reworks than Rise, which is saying something. And Mundo, yeah, I'm still on the fence about the new Mundo design. Like, I get it, but at the same time, I don't like it as much. It's like, I like Goofy Mundo. But as long as they don't mess up his other skins too much, because Moneyman Mundo's got to live. Can't get rid of Moneyman Mundo. Balanced. Yeah, Mundo's still in the works. They're showing things a lot more in advance nowadays. And just putting a hotfix on him isn't extremely difficult. Well, not extremely difficult, not to take away the value of the wear, but it's a lot less than a full visual upgrade. Balance change, yeah. Because that's mostly just changing damage numbers and cooldowns, which you can test into the ground if you've got the time. Get these knuckles. I'm going to just concentrate for a moment. Starting to look a bit more like the Hulk rather than Swamp Thing. Still got to do his belly and his face, but that green is coming out a lot brighter now. To be fair, the biceps looking a little chunky. A little bit more feather in there. To be fair, I know a champion I'd love to see get an update is Corky. I just absolutely love him as a concept. So he's just a little yordle that he's just in a little plane, just doing his thing. A lot of the yordles I actually do quite like. It's just keeping that little bit of whimsy in the setting. Like, I know everyone jokes about Teemo being the devil, but you know, he's literally a Boy Scout. Yeah, that's part of my issue with the Mundo update. He does look a little generic. Like, I get why they did it. It's the same reason. Yeah, justice for Corky. It's the same reason Swain got prettied, shall we say? Because old Swain was an ugly bastard, but on purpose. But a bit harder of a sell when one of your champions is an ugly old man. So you just got to turn him into a. I don't want to say it. It's like a gilf or dilf or whatever the phrase is. Right, there we go. Just needed to clean that brush because some of the green was getting clogged up. Still is a little in the ferrule. Right, there we go. That'll do for now. Let's get a start on his stomach. And apologies for some of the noises from outside. I'm squeezing through. It has been, even if it's been a bit cloudy, it's been warm. Swain is guilty. Not enough Dilfs in League. Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm half surprised that there were all a bunch of oldish guys in League. They're like, I don't know. Are any of the champions confirmed to be parents? Other than Kassadin, and then he put his daughter in the game. Yeah, I actually can't think right now. I don't think anyone's going to say anything like that about Kassadin anytime soon. He's a bit more Darth Vader than Supermodel. Still, yeah, I mean, he still has the freaking Dorito feet. No, he doesn't even have feet. What am I saying? He doesn't have feet just so he's actually easier to model and animate. I say as I paint an orc stomach. This is my life in lockdown. I did actually get the potential confirmation of going back to work soon as well, and I won't lie, very on the fence about it. Kassadin confirmed for Dilf. Yeah. If I ever get a decent enough computer, I might actually start playing and streaming League. It's like, granted, I'd have to relearn a lot of things, but it could be fun. It's like doing something silly with chat. I know, well, it's like, I've mentioned Cryo, but I know Ross Boomstocks is someone I watch a lot of, just because silly builds and Pantheon. Like those videos of mathematically correct Pantheon absolutely exploding. Yeah, my laptop was just about capable of streaming Magic Arena, and even then it was a little bit of a struggle. Granted, half of that was just a server going down. Extremely, yeah, it's possible. It's something I might do, because half the reason I don't play it to my own time, other than some TFT, is just you don't do extremely well sometimes, and the community lives up to its reputation. So playing with a group is just easier, even if just actually getting off my ass and playing with a group of people that I know I could easily play with, being pretty much half the people in the chat. Is just, I don't know, it just seems to be a barrier. I'm just not very good at saying, hey, I want to do X, Y, Z. Who wants to? It's like, I'm going to sit and wait until I feel like it, and other people feel like it. And sometimes the stars align. Painting an orc lip. I'll probably try and make the lip pale while doing the rest of his skin a bit more saturated, just to make it look a little different. So you do have, yeah, but as I'll just call him John because that's saying that username. We are currently in the midst of EDF. I actually heard a little bit of feedback from my microphone there. There's a lot of ants and spiders and frogs now that need shooting. Chin. But yeah, it could be one of those things we just jump back into when we feel like it. Probably have to priorities. Oh, my recording has stopped. I told you to not record, so why are you telling me that it's stopped? Right, whatever, carrying on. We probably have to play a couple of bot games just to familiarize ourselves with the new shop as well, because a lot has changed. Not as much as the time where they added the multiple dragons, and the Rift Herald. From what I can gather, maybe I'm wrong on that one, but certainly a lot about the game has changed in the past few months. But that's the whole point, isn't it? They got to switch it up every season, otherwise it just feels like the same old game. Granted, that's probably half of the balance changes that they do. It's like, okay, game's feeling a bit stale. We need a champion to be good again. Give, I don't know. I can't think of a random league champion that isn't like that is sort of forgettable. No, Gragas doesn't need a buff. I don't know. You know what I mean, though. Just give random champion a buff, make them playable to shake up the meta. Just to concentrate a little bit. Painting an orc ear. Also, just noticing how much of this goes dark. Let me just fiddle with my lighting a little bit. Gragas just got nerfed. Poor fucker. I have to say, he was kind of, alongside Graves, one of the kings of the jungle. There we go. I think. I don't know, there's still a bit around his face that still needs doing. I don't know. It's also like just finding a role that suits me, because like, I can play support. I've got that sort of mindset for support where it's more keep friend alive rather than kill. That's more John's role. But also, Pixel's a pretty decent fresh support. Linkle can just pretty much go anywhere. Slider can pretty much go anywhere. Yeah, it's picking a role. I would like learning jungle just because it might take me out of my comfort zone, but it's also learning jungle. Right, there we go. It was his brow. That was what's making his face look a little bit too pink. Also, still a bit of his nose missing. Just grab that ridge. A little bit more of the lip. There we go. That'll get a little bit more defined as we add more and more. I mean, you could always just try playing Pam support. Yeah, that's an option, actually, to be fair. I could play bodyguard. For 90% of learning jungle, just pick a champ and look online for their path. Yeah, it's only really interactive when someone else shows up to mess with you, isn't it? It's like, it's just a really big lane. It's also like, just knowing when you can and can't gank. Just be a moment, just grabbing another sip. There we go. Jungle's now the most impactful role in the game. Yeah. It seemed to be going that way, but yeah, that face on screen, it's looking better than it did. You can actually make out details and edges. And it looks like, in the midst of doing all that, most of the whole wash has in fact dried. So we can just get on to anything else we want now. Where do I want to go? Where do I want to go? What will be simplest? Do I just go brown to get it out of the way? Yeah, let's do a little bit of brown. Because I won't need as much resource, Dragon, Herald, Control, yeah. This has just turned into League chat, which I ain't complaining. That for sure. Me and... Oh god, when was it me and Linkal just first started playing? I think I was still in college. First year of college. Which for me... Well, my first year of college, not his first. Would have been 20... I want to say 11. End of 2010, 2011. Which is scary to think about, like... Just after it went into open beta, yeah, we have at least been aware of the game for a good young... Oh god, I remember trying to play old Fiddlesticks and absolutely sucking. Granted, he was a very frail boy. He still is. A very frail boy. It's just now, he's a bit scarier. Like, literally. There we go. I think I can get away actually just doing this as a highlight, and maybe doing a little bit of a spot highlight later on the boots. That's already looking pretty solid. Get in some like old Karma, best Karma. I never actually interacted much with Karma, but that back then, most of what we did was play against bots just as like something to do, like a 30-40 minute game, just playing random champions wherever we felt like, and just beating up AI or dying to AI, depending on how we were doing at the time. I think it was when I first started playing a lot of Yi too, because I could actually get a kill or two back then. Now I can actually do a little bit better. Like I've in that decade-ish since figured out how games work. Tell you what, let's just do these pouches too. Just get them done because that's mostly just gonna be blocks. 2012, yeah, which is ironic. uh, yeah, there's that thing where like, I don't play aggressively. I just play Master Yi. Whoops, I killed people. And I just happened to miss the period where AP Yi was king and you could just meditate in between towers and survive. That would have been fun. Granted, it sounds absolutely busted saying it out loud, but like, it's been funny. Just doing it to show off. There we go. I think this is going to look... I was worried about the skin taking ages, but it actually went on in a layer, I'll call it a layer and a half, because it did need some touching up here and there pretty quickly. Usually warpstone doesn't go on that easily. Maybe I've just done something different this time that I don't know about. Who knows? Who knows? Plus, it's also just going to be the time, because like, with the whole call back to work being a thing next month, presumably, unless something goes horribly wrong, like, I don't know, that new Indian variant getting all over the place, not to bring up, El Rona, but that's why I've kept the streams so far weekly, just because I want to carry on whilst I'm in work. I might have to change the day occasionally, depending on what the rotas are like. But I do enjoy this. Like I said earlier, I want to keep at it. And again, I've had the considerations of finding a more I won't call it a career, working in a freaking customer service. I'm not going to say where, just for the sake of it being on the internet. It's not where I would consider it a career option. It is something I am doing just so I can have a job. Not to say that I don't enjoy it at times and love a lot of my co-workers, but like, there's only so many times you can serve drinks and not think, I can do better than this. Go, and the brown is going on quite smoothly too. It's just what? But that's gonna have to wait a little while. This is getting a little personal. Like, I know pretty much everyone other than what was his name actually? I never said it out loud when he was talking, the Hecarim guy. God, that was a bit ago. Mina. Yeah. I know, like, everyone else in here is someone who knows me personally, but like, I don't want to get too personal because again, this is gonna be a VOD. So the one from last week is still up on Twitch. And we'll probably start trying to play with the awful audio quality once this one is done at like 9:30. Wow, we're already an hour in, Jesus. Who knows? Magical Christmas Land, this takes off somehow and I become some sort of content creator. Blech. Just saying that sounds wrong. I don't know. If streaming did go right for me, I wouldn't mind it. It wouldn't be my first pick, but I wouldn't mind it. It just, I don't know, something to do for fun. And if I start doing it for work, it suddenly becomes a heck of a lot more stressful. Something I certainly learned helping out at an LGS. Suddenly my hobby became a point of focus because, well, not just because it was fun. So I kind of messed with it a little bit. Mina is a friend of ours who's also in our game with me, Jason, and Ewan. Okay, fair enough. Oop, low disk space, whatever. Well, happy to have them in. More people, the better. Right, the brown went really quick. At least in terms of relayering it. Ooh, I did forget his arm bracelet. Rope thing. Also, yeah, I just forgot all the rope. The necklace, this doodaddy here. Let's just get that. I need a little bit more brown on the palette. Ironically, just to finish up some tiny little spots, I need more paint. And these will pop a little more once I get the actual highlight on, which I'm thinking I'll go with a bit more of an ochre. Just to make it pop. Because I've been doing that with some of my marines, and it really makes it look like leather rather than just brown. If that makes sense. No idea if it makes sense. Oh, I did that. It is just this necklace that needs that extra little punch. There we go. I don't know how well it's showing up on camera, but at least in person, that is looking better. As in, I can actually make out the different areas of colour, rather than just looking like a big old amalgamated blob. Right. I need to get the shading in the leather. So, whilst I'm thinking about it, I am just going to grab a black wash and just chuck that on the jacket. At least we realise how much of a biker gang sort of orc he's starting to look like, which is a thing. I do miss my evil sons. That is something I do like with orcs in the setting. It's just like, what sort of weird, goofy archetype do you want? Do you want some pirate orcs? Freebooters are a thing. You want biker Mad Max orcs? Evil sons are a thing. You want cavemen orcs? Well, not only are you getting new models of that, where they're riding squigs. You got your snake bites. You want angry boys? You got your goths. One of the other clans. I think that's most of the big ones. If you want something else, I don't know, make it up. Sculpt little cowboy hats for them. No one's going to question it. It's orcs. They just do what the hell they want. Usually that's beating things up while being loud. Which, honestly, a little relatable. Pirate orcs, yeah. I did get some freebooters years ago. But they are kind of hidden in the case somewhere. I do have. I might grab him in a second because he's within arm's reach. I'll have to lean. So a custom sculpt I got a couple years ago. I did post it on Facebook, so you might have already seen it. Just wait for that to dry. Sort of aping the idea. It's not an official model. It's a resin 3D print recast sort of thing, but goddamn does it look good. This guy was a hell of a lot of fun to paint. Again, don't play orcs, just absolutely adore them. I even managed to make him look like he's on like a coastline on the base, which I was quite happy with. Just a bit of sand, greens and blues, apparently a lot of dust. Jeez. And a bit of a glaze, just to make it look shiny. Yeah, this guy just needs dusting in general. Probably half the models will go on display on a shelf somewhere, do. Because I've got Shadow Sun, Drazier, Skulltaker, a bunch of Caradrons. Yeah, I was really happy with how he came out. I almost ended up using him in, like, I had an idea ages ago for a campaign. And then I hit my camera that would have him as, like, an orc captain boss and then just a bunch of random orcs just ransacking things. Yeah, Skaven if I have any. Literally just this guy that I painted up for fun. I've got some lizard men, but they're a very old sculpt that looks kind of bad. The old Saurus Old Knights, Cold Night, whatever they're called, Cold One Riders, whatever. dinosaurs riding dinosaurs. Just some of those because they came in a box with a model that I wanted, which would have otherwise been the cost of the box. Honestly, if you want, I don't know, Skaven. A lot of people are reckoning Skaven are going to get updated soon anyway. They kind of do it. They've already had some minor updates with some endless spells, basically just like magic spells that they can cast that stick around as like a physical thing on the battlefield. I haven't learned to play Warhammer before. 40k lore is a lot. It is a lot. Honestly, it took me so long to learn it. You don't need to learn it, and practically 90% of any rulebook you get is going to be lore. It's just a lot of it. Age of Sigmar has the advantage of the game's technically only existed for a few years, so the lore is simpler, and it's less lore as much as it is an actual moving narrative. Especially now that they're doing the what were they called? They've done campaign books of like the storyline progressing. Like they've done one for one of the Dark Elf characters. The one for Be'lakor is on the way. The one for Teclis just came out, and it's got the advantages of its fantasy. So a lot of it is familiar. There's elves, there's orcs, there's dwarves, there's demons, there's humans. But it's also got the advantage of, I think someone at the creative team just decided, we can't just make fantasy again. We need to do something different. Okay. Screw it. Some of the dwarves are now steampunk air pirates. Some of the elves now ride sharks. What other weirdness is there? This is the entirety of the Gloomspite kits. Just goblins just high, literally constantly high on mushrooms, and they think the moon is eventually going to hatch into a giant spider. This is like a lot of it is just like, a lot of it, the lore you can kind of guess, and then there's that little thing to make it different where it's like, oh, that's when it gets fucking weird. That's how they make it unique. Right, what next? Done the brown. We're waiting for, well, the black is pretty much dry, other than there's a little bit at the back. That my ability to paint does not exist, and so I'd have to ask you. Again, I'd be happy to teach to paint. Like, this guy literally started out. In fact, I'm going to grab him. I'm going to grab Mephiston just to show how this guy started out as a similar thing. Because this guy here, if I don't accidentally step on something and make a noise, started out looking like this. And this is literally black spray paint all over, just all over. White spray paint from above. Dry brush of a white, so basically like barely any white paint on a brush and just feathering it all over. And then just hitting it with a black wash. And honestly, I think I said it last stream, you could do an army like this, maybe using some glazes over the top to add some colours. And it would look alright. Ignore the fact this guy has no head. I could easily just pop that on the table and no one's going to complain that they can't tell it's Mephiston. If you know what Mephiston looks like, you can tell that's Mephiston. Without a head. Let me just knock a camera a few times whilst I get back into position and try not to run over a cable. I need a new chair, to be fair. This one is ancient. How does he smell? There's still a little bit of that tang of aerosol about him. Oh, you mean how does he smell without a head? He's going to smell once he has a head. I feel like his lack of a head might impair his ability to fight. It might, considering he's meant to be psychic. But I've got his head over on the shelf, literally attached to a stick, so it's easier to paint. And then I'll glue his head on once everything is done. Once I eventually do get around to painting him, he might be the next model I paint on stream, to be fair. Because this guy is like 90% red and gold. Yeah. And the back. He's also 90% cloth. So maybe that's easy, maybe that's tougher. I don't know. I usually quite like painting cloth, but it can take a little while. At least big, billowy, almost comic book style folds like that are quite nice. Anyway, here to paint an orc. I do also have a noise marine half unassembled over here, which I've been meaning to complete for ages because he needs his guitar. Otherwise, he's not a noise marine, he's just a torso. Right, yes. Black is actually almost dry. Gonna do some of the red, I think. Had enough time to think about it chatting. I get less done when I'm talking, but I like talking. I'm a rambler. Also, I'm using the wrong brush to pick this up, but whatever. This means I can put more on there. But yeah, painting is difficult. I still, actually, now that I think about it, have my first model I ever painted over here. This is back from when I started Necrons, back in 5th edition. Look at that fucker. He's horrible. Granted, he's not, like, covered in a thick blob of paint, but it's been 11 years of progress, let's put it that way. And that's why I keep him about. Just so I can look at that and think that's where I started. It's cool how you can fudge the ambient. It is literally ambient occlusion. It's called zenithal highlighting. I'm going to type that in chat just for the sake of spelling it. Zenithal highlighting. And honestly, it is literally model painting ambient occlusion. I remember having a talk with Pixel about it actually, where like, hey, what if we painted your army, but we did a zenithal highlight and we swapped out the black and the white for different colours, just for like something like that would be really cool for like painting demons or harlequins. And considering I've been looking at some harlequins because I like my space murder elf clowns, I might actually do that. Spray from one angle with something like a blue or purple, and spray from above with like a red or a yellow. Do a little bit of tinkering here and there to fix it up and make it look a little less like it's just been spray painted. And yeah, honestly, might be worth trying. I have to see if I can't get. I won't get a single character model because that'd be expensive for an experiment. I'm not going to grab a solitaire just to experiment with, but if I can get some other random like Harlequin models and some decent enough spray paint, I might have to try that out. I know Halfords do okay spray painting for models. A lot of people actually use their paints instead of the actual Citadel stuff priming. I know Midwinter does that, and I know probably a lot of people locally do that because it is cheaper. Again, I use the Citadel stuff just because it's more available to me. I could probably save a bunch of money by not, but I am happy to pay for convenience if I can. I mean, hell, I say choose. I taxi a lot when I can instead of taking the bus. Granted, just because the buses in the city are absolute wank. It's like, oh yeah, this bus that was meant to turn up 10 minutes ago turned up with the bus that was meant to come after it. Don't know why. But it did. Still costs about £3 just to get to city centre. Yeah, the red actually went. I forgot to do his bracelet. I was about to say the red went on really quickly. There's like a whole thumbnail worth of area to cover. Yeah, I don't know. There's a bunch of ways I want to experiment. Like, I've currently at home. I live with my parents, who one of them is asthmatic, and if it weren't for that, I would be experimenting a lot more with like enamels and oil paints, because I've seen what people can do with oil paints, and honestly, it looks so sweet. It is like, hey, you want to wash something in 2 seconds? Here you go. Oh, what's that? It doesn't look right. Just go grab like a cotton bud and wipe it off with some turpentine or isopropyl or whatever. And then it's like the paint was never there. Well, it might stain a little bit, but that could also just be something that you want. And then enamels are just... Granted, enamels is something that's more from like historical army painting rather than wargaming orcs. But it's still a technique. Yeah, Asma, yeah. Meanwhile, I've been given the curse of my dad's tiny nostrils, which means I can just barely smell. I can breathe fine. So the red, done red, the brown. It is mostly just the black now, which I am going to re-highlight with some of the Corvus. That's the problem with me. I can look at 90% of the armies and think, yeah, I could do something weird with that. And then I'll just end up collecting some. Like, I've been looking at Blood Bowl. That looks like a lot of fun. May I ask, tiny nostrils? Yeah, basically. Like, not the actual openings in my nose, like at the front of my nose that you can see, but the actual inside of my nose. They shrink a whole lot. So whenever I get a cold, it does not take much for me to just be nose blind. And honestly, I've not got a great sense of smell to begin with. But yeah, I look at I've looked at Blood Bowl and thought I could do something fun with that if I could convince people to play Blood Bowl or Adeptus Titanicus, just because tiny titans. One, just the oxymoron of that. Two, who doesn't want a tiny Reeve or Warhound Titan just sitting on a shelf? Again, if I can find someone to play that. It doesn't sound particularly pleasant. Honestly, I don't know much better, but at the same time, yeah, it's annoying. Granted, this past year, there is something to be said for the whole self-isolation, lockdown, quarantine stuff. I have not gotten a cold like this entire year and a half. Or year. No, it is a year. I've lost track of time. I've not gotten a cold. Blood Bowl on Steam. Yeah, they're coming out for Blood Bowl free as well now. If I actually bit the bullet and pre-ordered the new version of Tabletop Blood Bowl, it would have given me a beta pass for that. I know I used to play it with Linkell a couple of times. We had no idea what we were doing, but it was still funny. Turns out, I forget if it was an actual thing or us justifying it so that it made sense. We're like, yeah, lizard men just kind of have a hard time picking up the ball because they've got claws. Yeah, that was goofy. Just the concept of Blood Bowl is goofy enough. But like when they stopped it, I remember that a lot of death. Yeah, there was a lot of times I was like, okay, screw the strategy. I'm just gonna flatten you. But yeah, when Games Workshop stopped making the original Blood Bowl a good handful of years ago, there is now a small cottage industry of at least 2 and 3 other companies making their own version, or just like other small garage companies just making models of, pardon me, a bit of wind of here's just an elf playing football. We've not got a sports fantasy game, but here's an elf playing football, and then they brought it back, and now literally all the old world fantasy races I think have a team now, and they're having to do weirder and weirder things to add new things. Like they've added a Zote. I forgot Zotes were a thing. They're literally like reptilian centaurs, and now you can get one wearing a football helmet. I think one of my favorite things, if I wanted to try, was when they released a tree man for the game. Which, one, you can play a tree man in the football game. Two, he came with a little squirrel because he's a tree. But then they also released some. I think it was in a White Dwarf, the magazine they produce. They released some rules. Where it's like, hey, so we purposely made it so you could model the squirrel separate from the tree. You can now play the squirrel. You just stick him on a base. Congratulations, that's a new player for your team. And I think they named him something like Acorn, as in like corn, god of blood and violence and skulls. But he's a squirrel. And it's like, I kind of want to do that, but at the same time, I'm not buying a whole tree man for a squirrel. That was a sentence. It's what I freaking love about this setting sometimes. Right, done I've rebased. Have I done his trousers? I did do that. I remember doing that now. Yeah, I'm gonna hit that with a lighter grey later. The metals, I'm gonna wait a little bit. because I'm going to dry brush them. So I think most of him, except the white, I must acquire. I honestly, if I could find a way to get the little squirrel on his own, I would. But like, he's about the same size as this thing. So he's not going to be something I paint on stream, that's for sure, because like, I'd have to like, do that just to make him visible. Yeah, there's all sorts of things. I think I was tempted by Cursed City when that got previewed, just because it looked like Darkest Dungeon but Warhammer. But there's been some issues with that where I don't know if it's a legal thing or current state of the world is like, we don't know when we can print more of this. So, whoops. And then there's Blackstone Fortress, this looks really fun. Soulbound, if I wanted to play a tabletop thing other than D&D. They've made so many fucking Warhammer things. I can barely keep track, and I kind of like it. Not overwhelmed in the sense of like, oh no, there's too much, but overwhelmed in the sense of like, I could just come back at any time and see something new, and that's neat. And considering I don't play the game competitively at all, like how the hell would I play Warhammer competitively? I thought Magic was expensive. I don't have to worry about keeping up with any sort of quote-unquote meta. Blood Angels till I die, it would seem. Right, next step. Rather than wittering on again, waiting on metallics. I'll probably get the skin lined up. I know I own everything for Darkest Dungeon, but I haven't started because I don't know how to begin. Honestly, beginning Darkest Dungeon, I won't say it's hard. It is a game that you can, like, I was able to learn it just by playing it. But it isn't a game. It's like Dark Souls in the sense of like it doesn't tell you how like to optimize things. You got to figure that out. You've got to like remember or make mistakes to learn how to play things properly. I can understand that as well. Yeah, like I've been able to get up to the actual Darkest Dungeon, and then I just got scared and left it. It was like no, it was hard enough getting. Take a look at Cogent. Easy to manipulate, but also done on it. Oh yeah, that's Jazza, isn't it? Yeah, I've been watching some of his miniature painting stuff. I had an ex who very much liked watching his normal channel, so when he popped up painting Warhammer in my recommend, I was like, okay, I could watch that. And it's like, oh, I'm actually getting to sort of see someone's progress as they learn, which is quite nice. Yeah, don't bother going through optimization. I lost a lot, but it was fun for me that way. Yeah, well, when I say optimize, I don't mean like item loads outs or, well, a little bit of teammates, but like seeing the weird little synergies. Like, I know one of the first things a lot of people tune into is the Plague Doctor has an ability that buffs a character. Like, it's a short, I think it's like a 3-turn buff, and there's the Leper, who is very inaccurate. Part of the buff is increasing accuracy, but he hits like a truck. So a lot of the first synergies people think is like, oh, not only do I make him more accurate, he hits harder. So he turns into a meat grinder, and then you hit something with a lot of health. And then you've got to learn something new. I know there's a lot of Dark Souls replacement mods in the game, just artistic replacement. Yeah, the game being open source is really good for like mods. There's a butt ton. Their Twitter page actually does like weekly mod showcases. Yeah, and also Tabletop Times, a second channel which has campaigns for mods. It's great. I do mostly just watch the painting stuff, but I watch a lot of painters on YouTube. But I might actually watch some of the campaign stuff. Some of the other people he has on his channel are actually quite cool. Like there's a guy who's, there's that guy that's sort of like doing a Necron army as he gets into the game, but they 3D printed a load of custom heads to sort of like be the same as one of his tabletop like role playing game characters, which I think is really neat. That is a way to make an army your own. Right, yeah, I've decided to go for a bit of a paler green for these final highlights. I've got a little bit too much on my brush there, it's going to be blobby. Let me make sure I can get this on screen. Let's start with the chin. Don't know why. Just makes sense. Let us just do some teeny weeny edge highlights. Just to make things pop. I'll do a little bit of his lip. I might make the lip a little paler in places. I'm just going to do, because he's not got a smooth lip, it's a bunch of little bumps where his fangs are butting up against it. But that sort of helps show off the volume. This is probably the most boring part. Well, it's where you see the shape starting to come together, but edge highlighting this stage is where I am just adding little bits of bright paint to edges just to help emphasize some volume. Even if it doesn't make sense, like for somewhere to be that bright, it'll at least make it visible, which is what we want. A lot of painting isn't about making sense, like realistically. Just how do I make this little army man look good from an arm's length away? Yeah, actually speaking of Darkest Dungeon, I just remembered me and Pixel. I say just remembered, I've been getting emails about it bloody every week for the Darkest Dungeon board game, which those are definitely candidates for painting on stream. Because when I paint those, I want them to look like the actual in-game artwork. I think that'd look really sweet. I remember doing something similar when I did art in high school. Made it easier to make solid color shading actually look good. Yeah, that's one of the hardest things about learning to paint. Is so like you have to deal with the fact that for like 90% of the time, it's gonna look like crap. It's not until towards the end that it's actually going to look any good. Oh, that was way too much paint. I have too much on my brush for that belly button as I drop the brush. So you just gotta be patient with yourself. There we go. That is much better. Sometimes something like a simple belly button will take a couple shots. That was just do a little bit on his stomach there, just to show off how round it is. I enjoy the fact that this is a chubby rotund orc rather than Abs McGee, so I want to show that off a little bit. I might have to come back with a little bit of warpstone just to feather some of these highlights a little bit. Make them look a little less stark. He's got a scar there on his chest. I'm garbage of colour, so I stick to pencil and pen outline. Sure. Ryan, why are you using emotes? But yeah, to be fair, that's why I sort of half suggested doing this, because this is basically pencil and shading. The colours are the hard part, because it's a lot more complicated. You found the kappa button. Watch out, everyone. Let's highlight. I know he's got that little vein there that I didn't give much warpstone to, but that suddenly looks like a big line on his arm. Painting is, well, I say paint, it's just colour in general. I'm sure like Pixel and John can back me up here when I say just picking colours is the hardest part of a lot of this. I didn't even focus. Okay, did not know there was a little Bob Ross. That actually really, yeah. I can dig that. And let us just get this bit of volume here. That's literally what this is. Once you know the colours to pick, it's just learning how to show off volumes. I know a trick I had to learn is sort of like, sometimes you can shade a colour with another colour. And that sounds really obvious saying it out loud. But like say, as a model I did last year, it probably still is up on my Facebook, of like that big red robot. Because it's like, oh, I've been painting for 10 years, let's do something crazy. Oh, you guys having fun with emotes. Like half of the red actually ended up being kind of purple. Just because I liked I accidentally got a bit of purple on a red model once, not looking, like just completely blindly just plopping colours onto a model without, you know, thinking as like, oh, that actually looks all right. I might keep that. That was years ago, and then looking it up was like, oh, that's a thing artists actually do. You wouldn't think I had an art degree. There's a lot of obvious stuff that I just sort of miss. Granted, that is one thing I will say about uni. It doesn't teach you how to do the thing, it teaches you how to be employable for the thing, which are two very different things. It's a bit. I can go back to that and fix it. Accidentally got a bit too much of a bright green on his chin, but it doesn't look too bad. Honestly, that's come together really quick on camera. Let's get these knuckles. Speaking of, I think that there's a photo of like I haven't seen the first Sonic film that came out last year. Was it last year? I don't know anymore. But I know there's a picture that's come out of like they're using a sculpture of Knuckles and Tails for like the actors to act with for the second one. A photo of that got out, and they look good. They actually like I know there was a whole hubbub of like when the first trailer came out and he looked like a mutated cat. The experimental colours off the model quite often actually. I've not got an example in arm's length, but if I were to grab some certain models and show you the bottom of their bases, you would see a load of random colour swatches where I'm just slamming things together to see how they look. Most people that want to be employable through art that I've seen have done it via drawing a portfolio. They showed it in the face of a guy that said he needed to hire. Yeah, that's kind of how it works, freelancing. I have a feeling that that doesn't translate well to replicating it. The problem with that strategy, and it's basically what they teach you, is like, here's what you need in your portfolio to show that you have the skills to do things. They might show you the basics of how to do those techniques, but yeah, it is literally just like, find someone hiring, show them your portfolio. Again, that's the freelancing method. And the problem with that is it's what most people are doing. Anything else is either get hired by a studio, which is kind of just that anyway, but with a job interview involved, or honestly just getting lucky online, either by just making money directly from your content, say of like a Patreon or a YouTube channel, or going viral with a piece of art and having that basically serve as your portfolio when someone thinks, oh, they do the thing that I'm after really well, let's give them a job. Though, to be fair, if there's one other thing uni taught me is I'm not too keen on doing that sort of living. Like, if I do art for very specific reasons, and doing it for a job kind of throws them out of the window, which just takes away any enthusiasm I might have for a project with it. Working in art is difficult. Granted, it is also the mindset a lot of people have. It's like, oh, just anyone could do this. It's like, yeah, anyone could do it if they practice it. But, you know, by the time someone has practiced for so many years, so is everyone else. The only thing I've seen is to go do an architecture course as a work placement. Bottlenecks what you're doing. If I had more faith in my ability, I probably would have gone for that instead of programming. Architecture, yeah. My uni did have an option for like doing a placement if you could find one. Basically, it basically just be work experience for a studio, and if they liked you, they would hire you on after the fact. And it was either that or doing a dissertation. For some reason, I chose to do the dissertation. Then didn't do the dissertation, but did well enough in practical work that I didn't need to. And now I have a degree that I don't use because I work in a bloody bowling alley. You should upload the VOD to YouTube. Free real estate. I might. They are up on Twitch. Just as a concept of like architecture, since you're drawing static stuff. Yeah. Plus, it's like like I'm very much lean into drawing mechanical things. That's just been sort of like what my go-to is in terms of like what I like to draw, but also just because like with my dad having a bit of a mechanical background, uh, I've just got a little bit of that extra side knowledge as well for free, so I can just sort of like make something that actually looks mechanical rather than just like box. But yeah, where was I going with this about architecture? Architecture, yeah, but that's the thing. I'd say architecture. Well, it does have that artistic aspect of like drawing plans. It's it's very much sort of more of a engineering thing, I would say, because like you got to know about load bearing, how your materials work, and just honestly the logistics as well. Like only the really famous architects get to do the crazy stuff that costs a lot of money. Or if you're not one of them, you're making office blocks. Granted, they could be nice looking office blocks, but you're not going to be making like the Sydney Opera House anytime soon, not unless you get a reputation. And don't even get me started about how that reputation thing works with high art, quote unquote. Speaking of, I need to start getting some copies of Spectrum in. Let's get that. This it's going to need a lot of refinement, but this is the back and forth. Most of the skim has a highlight on it now. Just play big rich construction, it probably qualifies you. Yeah, there's a lot of that in there. I'll say that. I just clean it. Look, granted, games like that, you could argue could have an educational benefit. Like I know Minecraft's been used in schools. What's Spectrum? Spectrum is I believe it's an annual magazine. I want to say magazine. It's actually like bound like a paperback book of just like some of the best fantasy. Well, I say best, like higher profile fantasy artwork that's come out in that year. I only found out about it because like 50% of those books is magic art. Because when you're printing about 1,000 odd playing cards a year, that's a lot of fantasy art, and a lot of them are relatively big names. But there's all sorts. Um, I got the reminder because a YouTube channel watch. I think Eons of Battle. It's a Warhammer painting channel, but he doesn't so much do tutorials as much as he does do mini tutorials mostly on how to base models, but he mostly does just sort of like think pieces, and the fairly easily digestible stuff. It's not like highbrow, but where he was doing a video on just finding inspiration, and he pulled out a copy of like some old Spectrum magazines, and it's like, yes, those are a thing. I need to get some of those. Just what I'm doing right now is I'm taking the old be more, do cleverest, become engineer, win. Yeah. I'm just taking some of the old Warpstone glow that's sort of watered down a little bit on the palette and just sort of blurring the lines between the sort of powdery green of my highlight and the rest of the Warpstone glow on the model. But yeah, I need to grab some copies of Spectrum just because like they don't go out of date, do they? It's just the art from that year. So there's a lot of material that could just be used to help sort of get the juices flowing. Granted, most of mine would probably just be like looking at colours, but hey, John, I know you do a lot of like fantasy art in your time, so it'd probably be very useful for you. Who is Captain? It's who Captain Scarlet works for. Honestly, it might actually be. I don't remember much from that show. I was more of a Thunderbirds and Stingray kid. That makes me sound much older than I am. It was on, I think it was CBBC for a while when I was little. Around about the same time frame where they would play Dragon Ball, my mum would force me to change the channel. Can't believe I've not heard of it before. Yeah, I think it's because a lot of it is American art, but there's like, I think just art books in general, just hoard them. I know I've been meaning to get more into them, just when I have the space. Because art books be big. Yeah, Spectrum, just film art books if you like the way a film looks. Just grab one of those. Uh, I know, again, I'm going to bring up Magic because I like Magic. They've done a couple of art books for Magic. I've got the Kaladesh one hiding somewhere, and there's Innistrad and Dominaria ones that I might grab at some point if they're still available. Not the fastest selling things, because if anything, the Faithless Looting spoil is showing me is that a lot of Magic players aren't much into thinking about art other than is this immediately pretty. And I like that Faithless Looting art. Not to be contrarian, I just legitimately like it as its own piece. But I like all sorts of weird things. Yeah, with the screen, that actually just on its own has already done a lot to sort of help tone it down. Let's put a little in there. Yeah, a little too much on this cheek here. And that is a little bit on that bicep actually before I say that. That is most of our skin done. Can I get it in light well enough? Hold on a second. Wow, 20 minutes left. Well, I can at least say I've done a decent amount, because that is not looking far off finished. As a piece of new archive art is good, but in terms of the artistic identity... Yeah, no, it was very out of left field in terms of what Magic usually does in its art. I did see a couple of people tinker around with it, and... How do I phrase this? Because without finding the actual picture of the card and putting it up on screen, does that take forever? Just as a quick explanation, the artwork is like a fairly realistic depiction of a woman, but the hood, the shadow from the hood, the bowl and the fire that she's holding is done in very flat colours, so there's already a lot of high contrast in terms of like texture. And then you've got a very complicated card frame on top of it, and it looks busy. It looks very busy. But I've seen someone take that same artwork, because the artist posted it on Twitter, or at least a high-res photo of the canvas she painted it on, and then put it in the normal card frame, and it looked fine. Like, putting on the less busy card frame let the art breathe, shall I say. And it looked a lot better. It still looked really out of place as an actual card. Again, just because Magic in terms of its art is very much the fancy, high-end, very polished sort of style. It doesn't leave much in terms of interpretive art, unless you're like Seb McKinnon or someone. And granted, I love Seb. His art is just great. And that's part of the reason I think people noticed him. But like, yeah, it did stand out against the other pieces. The actual art is okay, but also the way it was cropped makes it look awkward. Yes. That picture actually does go down the entire frame of the card and a bit further. And again, just, yeah, the way it was cropped, just... It did look awkward. I think part of it is because they've gone from just making a set, in terms of the amount of artwork, to making a set... Then there's the extended artwork, then there's the alternate artworks, and then they're doing things like the sort of different artworks like in Zendikar, or Ikoria had that comic book style, or Kaldheim had that sort of wood carving style, and now Strixhaven has Mystic Archive. It's a lot more art per set, which means a lot more art per year. So I'm wondering if the pipeline is having to be sped up a little bit, so little things like that can't be refined as much. Because I've had at least a little bit of a look behind the scenes in terms of like how the art gets put together for sets. Jason Rainville is very good for that. Did the art for Beckett Brass, which is why I follow him on Twitter. But whenever he gets a piece he's really proud of shown off on an art as a card, he goes through like, okay, this is the art description I was given. Here's the thumbnails. Here's how I changed it after some feedback. This is the first color sketch. This is how I changed it after some feedback, etc., etc. And you get to see his process, and I knock the camera. The alternative card art for Kaldheim was wonderful, but all of those alternate printings just make it a pain. Yeah, no, that is true as well. There's like, here's a card that has been out in this one set. There are now 7 versions of it, not counting foil. I do not envy anyone trying to collect them all, because that is a lot. It's a lot of FOMO too. I think a lot of this is just like, the game has gotten a lot popular, especially during lockdown, and I think they are trying to capitalize on that a little bit too much. Like, some of it I like. I always like seeing more variety in the art, especially when it makes sense. Like the Viking Norse set having sort of like wood carving art made sense. It was thematic. It looked nice. It made sense that the cards picked were all legendaries from the set, because those were the kind of characters that you would get in wood carvings. You know, your legendary heroes and monsters and things. People open collected boosters more than normal, resulting in base and non-foils being more expensive than it used to. Yeah, there is that. I do know that it kind of has a weird reverse effect on some things as well. Like, there are certain cards that have gotten a heck of a lot cheaper, but they are the ones that have like the 700 printings. So people are just like opening more copies of them because it's available in more different kinds of packs. But like, if a card's good and it doesn't have that, just the fact that there's like a proportionally smaller number of those cards out in circulation really buggers up the price. Then again, I've said this to some friends before. Like, I never played Standard competitively. Modern is looking harder to keep up with. I like my Commander, and Commander's Commander. I'm not going to be getting Gaia's Cradles any bloody time soon, that's for sure. And honestly, the idea of just proxying or making up cards to play with is appealing more and more as time goes on. Because, like, 1, it's kind of cheap and or free, and 2, it's just as fun. Like, if I'm not playing in a tournament, do I really need to buy a playset of a $30 card? If I'm just playing at a kitchen table with a friend, I'm just going to grab, like, a Forest and write, I don't know, what's a good example? This is where I stutter. This is where my brain kicks in. Commander Historics are my formats for now. Modern, I'll stick to one deck and keep it solid. Yeah, that was my plan with Modern. I still need to get that list put together, like in terms of the actual list. I am getting a lot of shadow from my camera right now. I've proxied up so many cards I don't even care. Yeah, it is honestly just easier. Like, Commander is a format you're never going to play in a tournament. I'm just proxy. If I can get cards, like, I will get cards if I can make a bundle of them and it costs like 20 quid and I get around about that many cards. That's fine. I'm fine to do that. But if it's something like, say, a format demands me having so many copies of a card that's 30 quid, it's like, I'm just going to go write that on a piece of paper. Bye. Is this a tournament? No? Alright. I don't care. Plus, like, with proxies, Sheepwave on Twitter, I believe is her name, is very good for this. She does pixel arts, a lot of pixel art proxies, and I showed, ironically, Pixelate one for Erixmathes that kind of looks like Terraria artwork. Not on purpose, but it kind of is reminiscent to that. And it looks good. Like, I would play that if I played Erixmathes. So, like, if I get a proxy, I can either A, have my own art, or 2, just have really nice art. I wish fakes are actually pretty good. Yeah, some counterfeits are pretty decent. It's a money thing at the end of the day. Sheepwave. I know it's a weird name, but yeah. I made basically 2 full decks that were all proxies. It is how it is. Yeah, again, if you're playing at home, anyone who's going to give you guff about proxies is probably not worth playing against. Yeah. Let me just actually quickly grab their name with John asking. Sheepwave. Is this her? Yes, it is. Oop. I pasted when I meant to copy. Give me a second. Control copy. That's done it. And paste into chat. No, that's an ugly URL. Let me just find the Irixbafees altar itself, like the actual tweet. I know I'm wasting time, but honestly, we're in a pretty good place with this right now. I could easily finish this in another stream that I planned on. I don't even know that showed up too well on screen, because I am currently looking at Twitter. That's an annoying thing with the media tab on Twitter. I am also just seeing a lot of their responses to other people's tweets. Show me the Eric's. It was a while ago. I know I sent it to Pixel, but it would take me even longer to scroll through our chats because we send a lot of guff to each other. You know what? I'll just use this. Turning Gouda into Red Gyarados. I think everyone could like that. Control, I'll cut just to make sure it actually goes into my clipboard. There we go. There's them turning a Magikarp into Gyarados digitally. It looks pretty sweet. Right, yeah. I think with our last 10 minutes, I'm just going to get the red on the trousers looking a bit brighter. I'm not going to go for a Scarlet. I'm going to go with some Wazdaka. It's a bit of a paler red, but it's going to help it look a little bit worn and weathered. Don't need a huge amount. There's not a lot of surface area we're going to be covering. Bit too much on my brush again. So, got the knee here. Again, I'm getting a lot of shadow from my camera. There's a nuisance. I think it might actually be not my light setup, but like my lights as in my bedroom lights. But if I do that, even if it is the last few minutes, hey, we're learning. Let us just make these trousers a bit more defined. Just get the folds, the bottom of that little hole, and some of our volumes. Again, this is going to look a little messy, but it's going to be easy to tidy up too. Yeah, I don't know. If I could find the time and the patience to do a bit more digital art, like I've had requests a couple of times to like draw some things. I might make my own proxies, just for my own sake or for friends. I'm not gonna like make it a big like, ooh, look at me, big artist. Nah, I'm a nobody in comparison to a lot of people out there. Like, you know, put my own little touch on some cards, or like exaggerate some things about a card that I would like exaggerated. Is that showing up too well? It's looking alright. It's a bit too dark at the top of his thigh here, so we'll just add a bit more paint. Yeah, let's do our other thigh, which is kind of already half shaded from the places I missed when brightening it back up. There we go. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, let's just get the red for the bracelet too. Still getting used to having a camera between me and the model, especially in terms of the bloody autofocus, it would seem. Then just grab this edge, make that stand out. Yeah, this stream I think has gone a lot smoother in comparison to the old one. Combination of fewer technical hiccups and also just having more people to chat to. Like literally last time was just me and Pixel. That's because I just decided to do it on a whim and didn't tell anybody. Yeah, this time we've had a lot more people in, less technical issues. All around has just gone smoother. So this is definitely something to keep at. Plus, also, I just get to talk about random shit I wouldn't normally be able to. You're my audience now, suckers. I talk about what I want. There we go. Let's just smooth out. Ugh. I either don't have it. It's been good, dude. Definitely enjoyable. Yeah, you guys do what you did last time and having and been playing Monster Hunter in the meantime too, because that seems like something you could chill out and do. Granted, you've been very active in the chat for playing Monster Hunter, but maybe you've just been deciding what to go out and slaughter. My audience now sounds threatening. It's yes, it was a threat. You listen to me for 2 hours a week. We can check out anytime we like, but we can never leave. Oh, and you're on your PC. But yeah, I think, honestly, this is looking pretty good considering. I am going to be cheeky though. And with these last couple minutes, been playing League and Genshin. Fair. I've seen a lot of love for Genshin. I'm just going to get teeny weeny dots of his eyes. At least based. It's because for some reason orcs have red eyes. There we go. You have a background noise for GA, and if you check Discord, you'll see that I am not happy with. Oh, yeah, I can see some. Discord does silence itself when it detects a streaming software, so I'll have to look at that in a bit. And everyone's just chilling, which is fine. Honestly, it's a stream. I'm not expecting people to pay attention, but if I can keep this up consistently, might also actually get the subscription for XSplit and actually stream in 1080 rather than 720. And once the capture device I've backed arrives, I might actually be able to break out the family camera to use instead of my phone. But yeah, that is decent progress for a couple hours work. The skin is basically done, except for maybe a little bit of refining on some of the highlights, but it's looking pretty solid. The red of his trousers, I literally just did in about 5 minutes. Oh, the double strike, yeah. It looks good, yeah. Everything's washed. The metallics are going to be super easy because dry brushing is a godsend for metallics. I've been able to talk about random junk. Basing's another thing I need to do. Probably just going to do gravel and dried dirt for that. It's an orc, it doesn't need to be fancy. Maybe making the knife look a little special, tidying things up. Yeah, I'm quite happy with how he's come along so far. It is going to take one more stream to do it, but it's only going to take one more stream, I can guarantee that. Yeah, honestly, even looking at it in person, it doesn't show up as great on camera, but in person it is looking fine. Alright, yeah, thank you everyone for joining in. I am so glad my phone did not run out of battery. My power cell seems to have run out of battery, but it's been a fun chat. We've made some decent progress. And get some close-ups on Twitter. I will. I need to show what people are missing to my whole 40 followers, which half of them are probably right here. Made good progress. Had a fun chat. We have learned. I have streamed a bit better. I might be a little quieter, but the audio is going to be so much better. Delaying it by that half an hour made it a lot less stressful getting it set up, because last week was a blur. Yeah. But we got there. Next week, yeah, finishing him off, basing. Hopefully going to have my lights rearranged where half of the screen isn't covered by the shadow from my phone. But we'll get to that. I'm literally a minute off it being 2 hours. I'm going to delay it by a minute. Screw it. We're getting there. Next, who knows? Like I say, once I get a setup that's decent enough over my, I say slowly dying laptop. It's 5 years old and still going strong. It's going for an Acer Aspire. It's held up, but eventually, yeah, get a better setup. Might start streaming games. What games? Potentially League. Probably some Magic. maybe some disco, because I know Slider's been playing it, and I've been wanting to do another playthrough, and I've just not been able to. It's one of those things where I know as soon as I start, I'm not going to come out of it for at least a week. If you set up, we could play some Commander later, potentially. I don't know. I'd evenings sort of turn into my sort of zone out time. Like this is normally my sort of play. Well, let's see how I feel. But yeah, we have just passed the 2 hour mark. So I am going to call it there. Again, thank you so much for everyone turning up, for having a chat, for just watching, and hopefully we can keep this up. And yes, John, I'll be sure to get pictures. Let us switch to this as I sign off, just because. Now, where is my recut broadcast button? There it is. Alright, yet again, thank you for turning up. Yeah, no worries. Happy to stream. It's fun. Catch you all next week.